Chat series. Let me start by, sharing my pride for what the Blockchain India team has, been able to achieve. I think they've got the momentum up and going since the time we started this initiative, at least. But honestly, it's been about 6 years now that we started this as a knowledge sharing community, and over time it's become the largest. And we did have the benefit of starting first, so it's the oldest and largest community for Web3 enthusiasts. Essentially, it's all about emerging technologies for our community members. And looking back, when I see the evolution of the blockchain community, I'm able to smile just looking at the sheer impact that we've been able to create. If you put those in numbers across the three unicorns and about 40 other startups that we have helped, or guided in their journey, and even 60,000 other community members that we've been able to guide in kickstarting or supercharging their Web3 journey, we just feel pride with how positively we've been able to touch the lives of our community members. Essentially, we stand to back the builders, as many of you already know, and the cause that we're evangelizing is that of decentralization and transparency. Back in the day when I started the Blockchain India community, I'd come back from the West, I realized the perils of a lot of, the power being, managed by a handful, and essentially, that led me to believe in the promise of blockchain. But as you know, it's a community effort, and the torch bearers are always our entrepreneurs, which we have tried to highlight specifically in the Fireside Chat series. So, the past participants are the founders of Persistence, Huddle 01, and many other promising entrepreneurs from India. So every time when I speak to a promising entrepreneur, for me it's about picking out those people that are killing it in the ecosystem. And I'm just happy that we have some alpha hunt going on here. And then talking about alphas, talking about people that are moving and shaking the industry. I have the opportunity of speaking to another brilliant entrepreneur that's building at the intersection of AI and Web3. I don't know, if the moment I say the name of the startup, many of you might be directly able to relate, but this one's the much sought after AI tool called Opus AI, and we have the CEO Adnan with us here today. Welcome, Adnan. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Great to be here. How are you doing?
Good. I think we got to getting you to wake up pretty early today. Is it?
Yeah, usually don't wake up this early because remote teams and managing like global and all that. But yeah, excited to be here.
Thanks for doing this. You have a really serious journey. I've admired you, since the first day. I remember it was September of 2015, basically fall of 2015, when I met you in the Valley at the Draper University campus. And so I've seen your journey, but most of our folks wouldn't have had the opportunity to follow you so closely. So let me quickly give you the opportunity to share your journey, and essentially share where have the travels taken you previously, at least when speaking professionally, and anything that you want to highlight on the personal front that's guided you would be great to hear.
Yeah, awesome. Like a brief background from my own is that Opus is kind of an anomaly, and myself I'm like most of the folks like you, I'm not an Ivy League Forbes 30 under 30 or anything. I started my journey as a normal engineer, like a lot of people do. Never thought that that's what I was going to be doing in the long term. Wanted to build something great, but mostly for be part of something, right? And worked for quite a few big, had the opportunity to work for quite a few big corporates like Ericsson, General Electric, contract for Lockheed Martin, for NASA on pretty big projects such as your Hubble telescope, your F-16 fighter jets. But then everything, I think, now at this point almost fits into a a puzzle that you think that, oh, I did this at that point, and now, like, I can apply it to solve this problem, right? It's like a culmination of everything that I did. But one thing that always been very close to my heart is storytelling. How um, humans have the capacity to see and narrate their experiences to others, whether fictional or real, right? I think fictional experiences are great too, because they let us explore the world that we have never seen, or so almost like, predict the future. So yeah, after all that, when we met in 2015, I was working for a startup in, Silicon Valley, and uh, in a very different field, like in semiconductor. And since then, um, felt that there's a specific need to empower the storytellers of the world, right? I think technology, I mean, even that at that point, AI was moving pretty fast, right? And it hasn't slowed down a bit, but meeting all these great entrepreneurs, and people who are empowering them, um, I guess, like, gave me the courage to jump in and say, okay, we can do something uh, that will almost like change the paradigm of storytelling. And yeah, that's where we are. Like, we really want to think about storytelling as a almost like as a next paradigm of how things are done, right? Almost like the future of work. But we'll talk more about that.
Hey, Andan, I think, I've always looked up to you, but I think this is a proud moment when I got to know about Opus AI and when you showcased what its potential power is. I was just mind blown. So I think with the early success, you should already be exhilarated, given that you spent quite a few years in the grind building this out.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I won't say early success. We worked quite a bit, but yeah, definitely, it's still like, I know how tough the journey of most of the entrepreneurs is, and definitely when you're doing something um, like this, it's often variety of factors, right? But at this point, of course, it almost seems like that, all the stars are aligned and everything is moving in the direction that you want it to move. But there's a lot of work that went into it, and I'm not saying that just my work, like, a lot of people, like, yourself, but people who are rooting for us, people who are encouraging us on, and definitely early feedback um, led us on. So very excited to, like, how the response of the community is, how now almost like universally everybody perceives it. So yeah.
Yeah, and I was the other day looking up on the Twitterati's. You're already one of the sought after AI tools, so I'm sure there's a huge way to go. But I can definitely at least proudly say that there is a hint of recognition from the world that's already coming. But before we dive into it, a lot of our community members are not as adept in the new innovation that has taken place in AI. Obviously, a lot of this was evolving with time, but the recent few things that have happened have definitely changed the dynamic for at least the output of work. Just as someone who's been in it, who's been pushing code, who's been seeing a lot of other promising teams build things out. Tell us what's happening. Why is everyone buzzing with excitement about AI?
um I think several factors, right? Of course, like, um so I think one thing that happened in the last few years is almost like a hope of reimagining the way we do things, and Web3 had a very big part in it, frankly speaking, right? Because um, as you all know, like, how the traditional industry works, most of the players, like big players, want to keep maintain that status quo that is there, right? They want everybody or anything that comes up, like, anything new thing, to either be owned by them or in some kind of, like, irrevocable dependency chain where they control the direction, right? But Web3 kind of changed this concept, right? Now you can almost go and raise your own fund. You can almost go and avoid the entire, I would say, ecosystem. Now that happened in the last 2 3 years, and that I think has led to this particular point where people are looking for, okay, what's the, I would say, what's the part where it's going to interact with the traditional industry, where entrepreneurs are building something super cool, but they don't even go the route of traditional, I would say, VC route funding, or traditional, like the way that looking for an exit or like a buy out from a industry player, but rather build something. And I think that's where we got the major recognition early on, right? The Web3 people, not the VCs, not the, I would say, but either it was completely like small investors, or just normal people who are super excited about what can be done. So we got a lot of this early recognition, and it was almost like surprising for us, right? Because we wanted to do something there, but at the same time we didn't know how long it's going to take. But once it started happening, that we were like, okay, yeah, that's what it is, like that's exactly what it's going to become. Because at the end, that's our mission to begin with, right? We didn't start in, I would say, the traditional Web3 space. We didn't start with a protocol or with coin or anything. We simply started with the mission that design tools are needs to be reimagined, and they need to change if you are gonna become that, like multi-planet, really kind of a civilization that is spread throughout the solar system. And the reason I say that everything we do, particularly, relies on one kind of 3D tool or the other, from industrial manufacturing to architecture to, so yeah.
It's very very exciting that you brought about the context of Web3 so early, right? One, that's been in the Web3 industry, someone like me, you know we've always been thinking about singularity, because we're students of all of these, at least three technologies coming together. I would say AI, Web3, and essentially IoT, right? So, but I had a very strong feeler around IoT is kind of like the feeler, gets the data in, understands things, uh, right when that data is crunched by AI models and made sense of, right? And then Web3 in that sense was that technology that remembered that data because of its immutability, did not allow that data to be fiddled. But from the outsider, please tell me, what has AI got to do with Web3?
Great, it's a great question, and it's a complicated question. I think, let's see. So AI is, um, I'll talk, in context of what AI means to me, right? I mean, I've been in the industry for, I would say now 26 years. Work with a lot of things that were not, didn't have a terminology, right? Literally, like category defining products. Like, and you brought up IoT, so I worked on IoT in 2007, and at that point we didn't know what to call it, literally, right? And at that point there was no IoT. It was literally like we have a bunch of boards and we were soldering thing, and we were bringing in sensors, and then would somebody ask, okay, what do you do? And we're like, we do something. And it was very hard to explain at that point, right? And things have fast forwarded now. Like most of these things have categories, right? AI itself was not a category, right? It was more like a science fiction thing, and then there were a bunch of technologists or like an engineers who were working on something. Anyway, so AI, to me, is something transformative because it lets you shift from the paradigm of where we're hand designing systems to a world where we're data designing systems, right? We're taking data and we're um, figuring out what behavior do we need as the output, right? And it's pretty revolutionary because it suddenly lets you create very complicated system, right? Such as like you see in the form of your Now conversational bots who can almost sound like a human, right, in most senses, but also really almost all the human knowledge, which you can query by talking to it, right? Asking it question, which is pretty transformative, right? Now, Web3 has, to me, one of the biggest achievement is to cut out the broker part, right? Because in most thing, when we think about, since human civilization started, uh, one of the biggest thing has always been they were the makers, and then there were the traders, and then there were the brokers, right? And broker have always been crucial to all these, anything that we did, from trading to selling, buying, manufacturing, because they were the one who decided what the cost of something was. They were the one who, in often cases, were with one with the biggest inventory, right? Because they were the gatekeeper. And Web3 changed that paradigm. That now everybody who's building something, everybody who's going to subscribe to something, can, without the need of a broker, um, come to a consensus, right? And that's I think that kind of changes the paradigm of how we do things, right? So if traditional world where Web3 was not around, an AI system would actually be almost, without having any argument, could only be done by, I would say, a big corporation. But now in this world, it doesn't have to be, right? Um, I don't know if I'm making too much sense, but
No,
I
yeah.
think what's gonna happen is this singularity that you talked about, because singularity can mean a lot of things, right? Singularity can mean a big paradigm shift. Singularity in AI terms mean when AI gain consciousness, and it can mean when we become spaceborne species and all that. But in the short term, I think singularity is going to be where these transformators, two sets of transformation technologies combine, coupled with let's say the ability to query real world, like IoT, and uh, suddenly give us this ability to lean back in our chairs, rather than where we have a whole bunch of people who have to work, and then there are big families who have a lot of money, but pretty much everybody will be able to query this system, work with this system, and then uh, change to a very different role, right? And to me, what I imagine that role to be is more creativity and less manual labor. Um, and in
Absolutely.
order to get, yeah, in order to get, so sorry, I'll just kind of complete my thought. In order to get there, um, Web3 is crucial because it does not. It enables us to almost democratize the path that we're taking, and have normal people take part in it, rather than just a bunch of mega corporations who want to maintain status quo.
Absolutely. Hey, I think you touched two important points there, and I think I would first cater to the democratizing creativity part of things, right? Um, I pretty much grew up to realizing that one, growing up overall sucks to some degree. Obviously, it has a lot of its advantage. You get to do whatever you want to do, and the world is your oyster. But I think the most important one that I realized was that books are way better than their counterparts in movies. And when you specifically touch upon democratizing creativity, I think you've created something phenomenal. I believe converting text to pretty much any form of media, just by typing it out in kind of like a chat box. I think it is amazing, right? So tell me, do you really believe that the promise of Opus AI? I would forget everything else out there as a AI tool, but narrow in completely on the invention. I would rather say call it that you've been able to create. Do you think really that tomorrow a coder could spin up one of the I would say most beautiful music videos out there, or think of it as a hip hopper kind of writing code for a game that they want to start. Do you think that's a reality that we're going towards?
Uh, Um, Absolutely. And I mean, it's really hard to believe. But imagine, I would say 15 or 20 years from now, right? When we had video production were very specific, right? You need camera people, when you need post production people, when you need a lot of other equipment, right? And now you have independent YouTubers, right? With millions of followings, go hit overnight. So I think that's not as hard to, and I'm not saying that that's going to be the transformation is going to be of that level. I think it's going to be much bigger
Wow.
than most people believe, right? As in, I'm not talking about people just going on, becoming a hit overnight or going viral, but rather even touching some of the fields that I feel very strongly about, such as architecture, such as industrial manufacturing, such as hypothetical field that we haven't even started thinking about, right? Like I would say almost molecular manufacturing, right? Kind of the nanotechnology that has been long in the coming. So the reason that most of these things take so long and take so much work is because of the design piece, because of how long it takes to even show your vision to the rest of the world. Now imagine tomorrow you can just write about it like a narration, like literally like how we do storytelling, but you can show it to a lot of people in a very short amount of time. Somebody goes and publish a certainly a video of their vision, right? And the other person is like let's say building upon it by just narrating, and these are not technical people, these are simple like normal people who just have a vision. That creates the kind of change that a glimpse of which we have seen in form of, let's say, GitHub, or in form of Web3, which is that people are iteratively taking ideas and building upon on it. And that's how we do anything big in the first place, right? We, all of us, stand on the shoulder of giants, and we ourselves are giants for the future generation. But now you accelerate this to, I would say, 1,000x, and we're gonna see the change happen in, not in like next 2 centuries, but in next, I would say, couple of decades. And that's what personally I believe needs to happen in our lifetime. We can't be like you and me, we can't be like that, oh our future generation is going to reap the reward of what we're doing. It needs to be, we're going to see at least in our lifetime something big, and that really helps us put our 200 or 1,000x, right? Because at that point we're not like, oh, we're just going to be dust, like when things happen, but rather like, if we're going to, alongside with the new generation, going to be part of something big. So yeah.
Hey, this is very exciting. I would love to learn, as a creator of the tool itself, what is your favorite application of Opus AI? And I'm sure, you don't even know what it's going to be used in the future for, but, and, that's the mind blowing aspect to it. You've created the tool and people will figure out what to do with it. But what is your favorite application at the moment with what you've created?
um it's sorry, it's almost like a different so for me the creation itself is the most favorite part of it, right? And it's hard to sorry, if you see a black cat, it's just my cat that climbed on top of me. So this bum that you see, that's his name is Tesla, and he's trying to get in the middle because I've been talking for too long. But so creation itself is almost like a the most intoxicating or most interesting part of is, right? So if let me give you a pretext, right? Most of the time when we're, I'll move my mic. Most of the time when we're creating things, like a writer is writing things, they're almost like in a solitary confinement, right? They're sitting in a corner, they're writing things, and nobody can experience it as you're writing it. Now, that has always bothered me, right? I did some hobbies writing. My mom was a novelist, and I know how she used to write. And when she had to write, she would just go in a corner and she would say, "Don't talk. Nobody talks, right? Literally, right? You're not allowed to do this." And the reason for that is that it's almost like a rendering is going in your head as you're writing stuff, right? And you don't want that rendering to be disturbed by any external comment.
Absolutely.
Now, we didn't realize when we started on this, but this itself has become a very interesting thing, that the rendering is now outside of your head. It's happening on a screen. And then at that point, you're just experimenting, iteratively tinkering with something like, a complicated uh, world building, right? That that becomes very, very, and the second we realize it, that how addictive it is, we went and did something even cooler. We added multi-camera sport. Like, when people are creating it, you can, as a spectator, jump in and um, go and start exploring as things are being changed, right? So imagine, like, almost like, the world is terraforming and you're there. So I think that's the most interesting bit for me. And definitely, like, storytelling itself is gonna be super cool, but it almost becomes um, less exciting when you see that happening.
Absolutely. Hey, one thing that I see, I'm a gamer myself. I've grown up to playing Counter Strike, Call of Duty, and Dota, and I don't know whatnot. In fact, to some extent, my family was really bothered when I was getting another PlayStation last year. So essentially, I'm looking at it from the perspective of how many interesting games are going to come about, because I think the moment you can write a scene and it automatically turns into a game, I think that is going to, give the power of building games to so many, as you said, writers like your mother, it's herself. I think, do you see a lot of games being created through Opus AI?
Oh yeah, I think that's the part that really excites me to think. And let me put it into context, right? I'm a big bookworm. I love book reading, right? And again, the same thing applies there. Reading a book is a very solitary experience, right? You don't want to talk to and interact to anyone while you're reading a book. Now, go on a different side, let's say an MMO, right? Like World of Warcraft, or like, now those are very those are still stories that you're experiencing, but you have people around you, right? Real people who are interacting with you, commenting on it, and that's a very different experience. Now, for me, I think that's gonna be the most coolest. And these MMOs take very long time and a lot of money to create, and at the same time, you can't take too many risks because of the overall stakes. They are way too high, right? You can't afford an MMO to fail. Now imagine that you take out that entire thing and you say that anybody can create an MMO, everybody can jump into it overnight, right? Not that today is gonna be announced and then next
Uh-huh.
year is gonna come out, and all that. But rather than you wake up and somebody like, oh, this is, and you're like, oh, this is such a cool story, I want to be part of it. And it's like, in like, a few minutes, it's like streaming. You jump into it, right? And then it's like a, you know it's almost becomes a crazy thing, right? Because you're just like, overnight you suddenly see a video and you're like, sharing it with your friends. But now imagine that you're not sharing it, but you're in it, right?
Wow.
Almost like you're part of the story at that point. Now um, this is something that I'm super excited about, right? Where we can take not just the writers that are writing it, but a lot of books that I feel very passionate about, and I know that they're never gonna get made uh, um, into a game, right? Like, one of my favorite authors is Brandon Sanderson. Very, like, articulate with his magic systems, and um, if you haven't read it, like, definitely go and check it out. His Stormlight Archive series, super fascinating series. But it has been like out for several years, right? And I'm sure like somebody has contacted him for something, but
Uh-huh.
I know that's going to take probably a decade or even more before you'll see any movie come out of it, right? And
Uh-huh.
it's now, what I'm excited about is that these, and he's not the only one. There are like hundreds of thousands of these people, not just now but in the past. Now imagine that any writer who's writing now suddenly is writing in real time, right? And people are like, their fans are jumping in and they are they're joining in the fun of creation, like almost
Wow.
giving him real-time feedback.
Wow.
That's something, it like almost like, hair raising, that you're like, oh my god, I'll be able to um, um, you know uh, experiences as it's being created, right? And of course there are now these old scripts, right? Like, a lot of things that have been written in the past, like, stories that have almost like forgotten at this point, because everybody wants to experience, um, I would say, the visual media rather than the written medium, right? Now, if we can take all of that, like out of copyright books, out of like, almost forgotten scripts, that itself is like huge, right? I love history, and I think that's gonna be pretty interesting to see, like, different viewpoints of history being visualized, and then
Love
rather than just historians arguing with each other, but everybody kind of like, coming up with a consensus on what the history actually looked like, right?
Interesting. It's exciting world that you're painting a picture of. I just think collaboration, will have a new meaning when writers, or imagine the Harry Potter story, the next one possibly being written live and being converted into a movie, but at the same time the fans are adding their own characters, or giving their own flavor. I don't know what could, Web3 talks about composability, but I think this is a whole new level altogether of what it could become. One interesting thing that you pointed out was putting people into games as well. And we just learned about San Andreas being copied into one of the games online. And I believe that it'd be exciting to have probably Adnan, you as a character in a GTA game, right? Or one of your friends who you want to take a pun on or have fun with while he's going through the map. Would be super exciting to do that. And that's just the start of it. I think the implementation of this around interactive presentations. I think very professional use case, but it could have a whole new meaning to itself.
Absolutely. I think what we call professionalism is going to change quite a bit with that as well. And I mean, you bring a great point, right? Everybody, like, go on Twitter and, post something and hopes that somebody that they really admire or look up to is going to respond, right? They comment on it and all that. But now imagine that you're not just doing that, like a different kind of social, where you see that person doing something in a word, right? And even I guess like Mark Zuckerberg talked a bit about it and touched this subject quite a bit, and people got very excited about it. But as we learned the hard way, that's not hard to create such a word. Like, it's expensive, it takes a lot of time, and when they are created, it's almost like a completely different ball game to make them usable, right? The thing that nobody thought about when they were spending these billions and billions of dollars on it. Now, this brings it down to people who are actual real storytellers, who know how to create worlds, right? But at the same time, they're not the only one there. Everybody else can join in, like, and almost like, um, um, build a real-time community, but
Uh-huh.
community as in physical community inside a virtual space. And if it
Love.
doesn't work out, throw it away and create a new one, because the cost was so minimal that it doesn't matter, right?
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I think that's going to be a very different paradigm shift. That's going to be almost like a societal change in how we experience stories, right? And no longer like that YouTube Shorts or TikToks, but more like almost like story that you're part of, right? You're
Absolutely.
jumping in and you're there and I'm there, and we're just like ideating, but then a whole bunch of other people come in and they start commenting on things, and we're not just talking about things, we're
Yeah.
creating things, right?
Absolutely, and it brings me back to the conversation I was having with one of the sharks from Shark Tank India, and he
Mhm.
mentioned about metaverse being a place where the community sort of brings things alive, right? And the alive that you're mentioning, I'm sure he's even not thought about it, because I don't think it was possible before, right? And that's just the latest sort of developments that entrepreneurs, much as yourselves, that are adept in coding, that are adept in envisioning what storytelling could mean, or what productivity could mean, if you provide the right tool in the hands of people that really know how to create these interesting stories. They could just change the meaning of the metaverse that possibly everybody was looking at. And pretty much the last year or so, I remember spending so much time playing games like that of bowling, or I remember meditating using the Trip app on Meta, uh,
Mhm.
on Meta's Oculus. I think that was just the start of it. But I think something like this could just take it to a whole new level altogether. Hey Adnan, I'll quickly give you the opportunity. You've got a very fancy website. I don't know if the tool is ready to be showcased. But if you wanted to share your screen and take everybody through the website and anything that you want to show, I think now would be a great time to do that.
Yeah, we can do a small demo. Let's see if we can share and do something. Okay, great. Let's see. Uh, all right. Can you see my screen?
I cannot yet. Why is that? Wait, do I have to? Yeah, now we can.
Okay, awesome. All right. So we'll just do a short demo. Let just give me 1 second. Uh,
Hey, by the way, everyone, I think I put this on the spot for Adnan because, when I saw this too, it was so amazing. I thought everybody should get to see this.
okay, it's giving me slightly bigger. So let me unshare and then reshare because sometimes it just gets stuck.
Uh huh. And by
So
the way, from an entrepreneur who's built products, every time we're showcasing something, right? And that's the point where it gets jittery, or with it goes to the point that there's some sort of hiccup or the other. So I'm always about this. I tell entrepreneurs that every time you're showcasing, you know, if even if everything's perfect, that's the time it'll go through a hiccup.
all right, let's see.
Take your time.
Yeah, yeah. We are doing I would say a newsletter. So if you haven't yet, please go to my Twitter profile, which is um, you know twitter.com/UDNAAN. So go there and I have a link there where you can join that list. And we're going to be sending updates on what we're up to, how things are going, and definitely the as we send out the invites to the waitlist, so you're going to see it there. All right. I think I'll have to probably. All right. Let's see. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think we'll be able to do something went wrong, and now I'll probably to go and
That
debug. But
that
if you haven't, we have a lot of demos out there and on our YouTube channel,
uh,
and we'll definitely gonna be posting a lot more interesting and sophisticated demos in the future.
uh,
So yeah,
that is completely fine.
it,
But I have a lot for you, because I've been wondering about what's going on in AI. So it seems like the hype is real, but I was always the one who envisioned that isn't it. And I've seen the movies like Megan, or a lot of the ones that feature AI taking over, or machines taking over, right? So I just want to touch upon that fear. Maybe I can understand from you, since you're building at the very cutting edge. Do you really think we can stop machines from taking over? Do you think this is even close? Because a lot of people are talking about it. A lot of people fear it. What do you think about it?
Um, I think we eventually will have to think about it. I don't know whether right now is the time to worry about it, because, and the reason I say it is because people see, like, that a machine is able to respond like a human, right? Like, let's say your chatbots are becoming a lot more, I would say, human-like. But
Uh-huh.
at the same time, when um, as technologists, we know that they are not actually thinking about anything. What they are doing is what we call parroting, right?
Uh,
They are searching through all the entire database of the scraped or build data, and now they are responding um, from that database. Like it's like a search and respond thing that is going on. So it's not, they're not actually conscious. They're not thinking. They don't have intention of any kind. Now,
uh-huh.
do we have to eventually worry about it? Likely, yes, right? And the reason for that is because um, we can almost see that basic structure taking place, right? Of not of thought, but of our own, I would say, neurons in our brain, right? And if it grows large enough, and again, if you connect it to, let's say, a sensory system such as IoT, which can now take real world feedback, we don't know where it's gonna go, right? Pretty exciting, but pretty scary to think about. Now, it's not gonna happen tomorrow. ChatGPT is not gonna do it, and none of the technology that we currently have is gonna instantly do it, right? Um, so we should have, I would say, conversations around it. We should talk about it, but at the same time, we shouldn't um, stop and waver in what we're doing, because it's gonna be a while before we get there. All right, I think I can probably do a demo that I just
Lovely,
started, and
lovely. So
yeah,
everyone, be ready for for some magic happening right in front of you.
okay. Let's see. Let me know when you can see. Okay, you can see the screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now I'll just start with. So let's say it was a. Now, the way the system works is that you can have multiple parts of it, multiple things that are doing. Um, huh, did it break? Oh,
See, I told you about these showcases.
okay. That's like I spoke too soon. So I'll have to. Yeah. That anyway. Let's.
That is absolutely fine. Hey, so Adnan, I also had a rapid fire for you. So if you allow me,
Huh?
you have to answer these without giving it a lot of thought.
Uh-huh.
So essentially, just a bunch of things. Maybe you can share your thoughts on what immediately comes to your mind, right? So the first one is essentially uh, your idol. Who do you idealize?
Who do I idolize? I have different people in different, I would say, um, different places. Like, of course, I idolize a lot of giants that the shoulders that we built upon, right? Definitely, your typical Faraday, Tesla. I think they revolutionize a lot of things for us, right? If they weren't around, they didn't do what they did at the time that they did, we would be years in the past, like I would say, decades in the past, right?
Uh-huh.
Definitely Von Neumann, that. Um, uh, Now, is there a personality today that I idolize? I don't think I idolize any big influencer. I do idolize a lot of um, people who are in their field making progress and often are not as well. So I would say that um, um, our grandparents, our our general, like I would say aunts and uncles who are still there, like doing things, even though they may not um, uh, have all the incentive in the world or all the recognition in the world. So that's where I place my most of my bets, right? And that's why we started Opus in the first place, because we I thought that there was almost like a techno elitism going on, right? Where everybody's placing their bets on that future generation. And I
Uh-huh.
mean, I'm good for future generation, right? I love young people, but at the same time, I think we need to level the playing field where uh, we don't just ignore or discard people who who um, help us grow up, give us all the knowledge, or the guidance that we needed to get where we are.
Absolutely, it's so thoughtful of you to be, starting, for all of those that are behind the scenes, not appreciated as much. But hey, I could guess the Tesla because of your cat's name for sure. So I was thinking that's going to be coming up for sure. But anyway,
Huh?
next one. Which podcast or blog do you use to keep yourself updated?
Which podcast do I don't avidly follow any specific podcast,
Uh huh.
but I do try to read a lot of research papers, and that's I think where I place my bets. Right, people who are doing hard scientific research
Uh huh.
um, in AI, but also in material science, because I think that's where a lot of things are going to change. Right.
Uh huh.
Because once we have systems that can design pretty much everything, then we have to figure out the materials part of it, right? And um, and if we can almost build data driven systems, then can the AI system itself goes and do some material research or figure out which material to use for which part of, let's say, if you're building a house or if you're building vehicle or all that, right? So that's I spent a lot of time reading research paper, frankly, right? And super excited about um, not just about AI, but a lot of now not as well recognized systems. Okay, do you want to give another shot? Because
Yes,
I
I
think
am
I
all for
figured
it.
it.
I am all for it. I've seen it, so I want everybody to, potentially see
Okay,
it as well.
this is our take three, and we'll try again. Hopefully this time. Okay.
Absolutely.
Uh, Okay, so this time it is working. So we got our rain and we got our summer and now we got our hilly, right? So I'll change it a
Oh,
little bit,
nice.
make it very hilly. Let's say instead of rainy summer, I can make it cloudy winter or
Oh, nice.
snowy winter. So now it's gonna start snowing. Um, but my favorite is spring,
Lovely.
of course. Spring day, and instead of day, I'll make it night, right? And we got our stars, but let's change it. So let's make it evening, and let's make it study area. Let's say there was a cat, right?
Can we see Tesla here? Yay.
Okay, so we got a cat. There was yeah, sorry about the uh, somebody who commented that it's a rapid fire and not a long lecture. The reason was that I was trying to figure out alongside what's wrong, so try to fix it. So I'll try to be more spontaneous.
Uh-huh.
Okay, that's it. Uh, okay, there are female
Love.
characters. She's wearing a red dress, and let's move her here. Now she's gonna move here, and
Nice. So that just changed the camera angle.
yeah, it just moved her. So we said that she was in front of the tree, so it just moved here, in front,
Right.
right? Because when you're doing production or storytelling, you wanna have the characters placed at a specific place, right? So
Absolutely.
that's it.
Absolutely.
So the reason we name characters, because then we can, just like in traditional storytelling, then we can have multiple of the characters doing different things. So
Oh,
I'll change the
nice.
camera.
That is amazing. Oh,
Okay,
nice. So she's laying there.
yeah, and we can have another character. Let's say, so we got another character. Let's
Oh,
say she.
nice. Nice.
Okay, let's match her here. So she and
I can totally see brands, playing around this for sure with fashionable stuff.
all right. So okay, so let's see. Let's make her move as well, right? So she. Let's make her run. Okay. All right. So
Super cool.
all right. So we'll stop the demo here for now because if I start writing, it's gonna take quite a bit of work. But
This is amazing. I'm glad everybody got to see this, and I think essentially time's up, Adnan. But I'm so glad we got the chance to connect and show everybody what you've built. I believe in the hands of the storytellers, this is going to be beyond powerful, and I think we have all sorts of interesting content coming to us in the near future.
awesome. Yeah, definitely very excited and excited about uh, you being excited and everybody else being excited, right? Because building one thing is one thing, and definitely you want others to be excited about what you're building. So yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
absolutely. Like, if I would imagine myself building something for years, and then and it does this, I would be like, wow. I would want to show the world, and I'm sure the world wants to see this as well. I do remember seeing that there's a huge waiting list or a sign up list that you have, and you're rolling this out in batches to people. So this just seems like a lot of hard work now coming to life. People coming to realize the power of what you essentially told everybody that you would build one day. And so this is just amazing. I think one last thing from you, Adnan, would love to get you to ask anything. Where do people uh, you know essentially find you? You said Twitter, but anywhere they can sign up, or you know wherever. This is your time for an ask. So whatever ask you want to lay it out, I'm sure people would love to respond.
Yeah, our website is opus.ai. It's opus.ai. So go there. There's a sign up there. Put in your email, and definitely, would love to have as many people who are excited about this be in the wait list. We are again a startup. We're not a mega, I would say, billion-dollar company. So we're trying to move as fast as possible, get this in the hands of people, get them to use it, but at the same time we're want to be very careful, right? Again, our aim is to empower people who are not technical, who are not coders, right? Our uncles, aunts, grandmas, people who have never had the opportunity to storytell. So we want to be very, I would say, on the Applish sort of things, like kind of a smooth experience that you dive in and it just works for you. You don't have to, download a model, worry about your, I would say, hard disk space or GPU and all that, right? So we've done a lot of hard engineering work, but now is the time that when it goes out, we want it to be a seamless experience. yeah, it's not going to do every single thing that you want it to do. At the same time, what it's going to do is going to do it well, right? You're not going to have to worry about. So we're just being careful. So yeah, go and sign up for the wait list. Um, Follow us on Twitter. We are on LinkedIn. Not probably not as active that we want to be, but search Opus AI. You'll find us there. And other than that, definitely, like my email is there. Um, Adnan at opus.ai. So feel free to send an email, any ideas, any partnership, or anything that pops up to your head. Yeah.
Hey, thanks a lot again, Adnan, for doing this. And we can already gauge the excitement. Maybe people can give you a shout out on Twitter, and that gets their priority in the wait list. But again, thanks again for doing this, Adnan. You're amazing, and what you've built is going to change, as you fondly said one day to me, paradigms. You were hoping to build something like that, and I think now it's out there. So I'm beyond excited for you and the rest of the Opus AI team.
Thank you for being an amazing host and you know being excited for us. Like we're excited because you're excited. So thank you so much for doing this, and yeah.
Thanks a lot for everyone else as well. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to keep bringing you exciting stories. I don't know if I can top this up because this is once in a lifetime kind of innovation right here. But again, you never know. There's so much happening, and thanks to Adnan and people that get inspired by such innovation, we're going to keep seeing some of this exciting stuff. But again, give our guest Adnan, the founder of Opus AI, a shout out on Twitter if you liked what he's built. Again, wonderful of you all to join us for this time. Thanks again, Adnan. Take care.